Several months have passed. The Order of the Holy Table is but a distant memory. Raza and Frederick have moved on with their lives, teleported away to parts unknown. But Kohri, little man barely even got any screen time, much less a story. And so the narrator decided to fix that. Welcome to Kohri's story. Let's get started. Our story opens on a sunny day, between some mountains. Life has not been the best for the little sorcerer. Kobolds are at the bottom of most food chains. After all, but for what the little kobold lacked in size, he certainly made up for it in charisma, sneaky power, and perhaps a little bit of magic. Kohri's lifestyle was not one of overpowering his foes, but outsneaking them and outsmarting them. And when the little kobold saw a patrol of dwarves make their way into a highly fortified citadel, well, the little kobold just couldn't help himself. There'd got to be food in that citadel somewhere, shinies, or perhaps even adventure. Kohri found himself within a massive dwarven citadel. To his left, he saw a massive courtyard where a group of dwarves manhandled the giant to mount a mammoth. Directly in front of him was a pair of two other buildings and a massive pit leading down into the depth. To his right, he saw a massive set of stables fit to house a mammoth, tended to by a single humanoid. And hey, wait a second. That guy looks a lot like Fred. What do you do? Kohri ruffled his scales a bit and cautiously approached, trying to check if it was really Fred. Lots of humans look similar after all. He snuck towards the stables. The building was made of wood, quite large, and it smelled of manure. A small patrol of dwarves approached the building, leading a mammoth inside. Moving stealthily enough to avoid them, Kohri made his way over to the caretaker, who seemed to be mindlessly shoveling the mammoth droppings. He did sort of resemble Fred. The armor was different, but the face looked pretty similar. The two major differences is one, the fact that one of his arms appeared to be missing entirely and was replaced by a metal prosthetic, and a prosthetic that appeared to be flailing around erratically, and two, the fact that Fred appeared to not even notice his existence, his eyes glazed over, seemingly with magic. Kohri will approach and poke at this strange Fred. Scales bristled. He poked he poked her. He poked Fred. The human part of him did not react in the slightest and continued to mindlessly shovel manure. His mechanical arm, however, aimed itself directly towards Kohri and gave a hand-waving gesture. The kobold cocked his head and chirped to itself before speaking in common. Fred? Is that you? Fred himself does not react. The arm, however, began moving up and down, seemingly in sync with his words. It does a thumbs-up gesture, seemingly trying to pull itself off the rest of Fred's body, which was acting mindlessly. More confused chirping, and Kohri will grab the metal arm and pull, trying to get the main body's attention as well. He grabbed a hold of the metal arm and started pulling, and pulling, and pulling some more. At first, it seemed as if Kohri would simply rip the arm directly out of Fred. Instead, however, the opposite seemed to happen. The more he pulled on Fred's arm, the more of him seemed to turn to metal. As he pulled on the arm, tiny nanites began to flow out of the metal arm, which by now you could tell was made of no normal metal. He pulled and pulled and pulled as more nanites surged out of the arm and converted more and more of Fred's flesh to a chromatic shine. Once the shine began to reach his face, however, Fred immediately froze and dropped the shovel, as if he looked like he was having a minor seizure. And Fred, you wake up in the middle of a large fortress with no real memory of how the hell he got here. He found himself laying down in a pile of little manure, with his savior, a small tiny kobold, standing over him. Kohri looked visibly confused, scales bristling and ready to bolt, and said, "A Dork, Fred blinked for a moment and said, "Oh, sweet Desna, it's you!" He looked to his arm and held his mechanical arm close to his chest. He cleared his mind and tried to listen for any voices. Lass, it's just me. I saw you. I saw you die. Fred went in for a hug. Kohri didn't pull away, but was visibly confused. Not sure what you mean. Weird. I, I saw you die. You were swallowed by the big frog. You don't remember that? I remember you and Raza leaving me. I don't remember much. But what are you doing here and doing this? And Fred made a perception check, and around him he saw dwarves, military dwarves, dressed fairly similar to Esmeralda, ordering giants around. Some ogres, but mostly giants, such as stone giants. A single stone giant was strong enough to kill dozens of dwarves, but for whatever reason, the situation here seemed reversed, and giant appeared to be enslaved by dwarf. And upon the armor of the dwarves, in addition to the tabards marking them as the soldiers of the Five Kings Mountains, Fred saw the unmistakable symbol of the Sahedrian rune. Looking towards Kohri, Fred spoke. I don't remember anything. I was talking to this lady. She left, and I woke up here. Hmm, that's pretty weird. We should probably get out of here. Lots of dwarves in armor and too many big people. They would fillet me. Not on my watch, they won't. I'm not losing you again. How the hell do we get out of here? The two of them looked to be inside a literal fortress. Kohri looked around for anything he could use as an extraction or a way to maybe let Fred escape. And looking around, he saw for means of egress. A few ideas certainly came to mind. The direct approach, fighting their way out, seemed to be a bit grim. For while Fred was certainly a capable fighter and capable of downing dozens of dwarves, there seemed to be an order of magnitude more dwarves in this fortress, not to mention the several dozen stone giants. Another obvious exit was the gate itself, a massive 20-foot high, 10-foot wide doors made of solid stone. It fit neatly into the wall between two of the 70-foot-ish high towers, and looked nearly impossible to smash or break open. A massive stone latch fell upon it, seemingly able to protect this fortress from even the most powerful of cannons. Still, the gate did occasionally open, pushed or pulled by either a pair of stone giants or several dozen dwarves to let in the occasional patrol. A trio of harpies kept watch above the gate. Apart from those two, however, his options seemed limited. Directly next to the two of them was the stable. It was made of wood and seemed to house a number of mammoths, seemingly being broken and being prepared as either mounts or beasts of burden. To the north of them, they saw a featureless stone building with a large wooden door, sitting directly in the shadow of a massive, imposing white spiral tower. The final building, not a part of the walls themselves, was a huge feasting hall, where both Fred and Kohri heard the sounds of eating, drinking, and general merriment happening in Dwarven. Of course, a human and a kobold finding themselves inside of a massive, giant-sized fortress was a very unique opportunity. There was certain to be gold and excitement about in this place. What do? Uh, Looking around, Kohri saw that, yes, a few of the dwarves seemed agitated, even annoyed. He overheard one of them say, "Oh, why are we still out here in the middle of nowhere anyway? Wasn't the mission to chop off the head of the giants? We did that, didn't we?" Another dwarf responded, "Commander says there's more work to do. We still gotta wait for C Battalion to come back, and they just left. Then once we find what they're looking for, hopefully we can head back down south for a warm meal for once." As Fred started walking around, while he was still holding his manure shovel, he found out that he was indeed invisible to most of these dwarves. None of them paid attention to the enslaved human. So I think I have an advantage. They practically think I'm a nobody. I think I'm going to play this. That could work. How would you get out around the thing? They had you in there. It's like they wouldn't just let you walk out. You're right, I can't just walk out. But I'll try to get some more info so we can plan our next move. Plus, I want to know what the hell happened to me. Makes sense. I'm not sure if I could move without being caught, but maybe. We might find out. But you sure you don't want to just get away from here? Like you said, we can't just walk out of here. Well, you probably, but I need to think smart about this. Do I want to get out of here? Yes, but I don't want my body to be controlled by someone else except by me. Unless you've got something up your sleeve that can help me. If if we had some way to distract them, maybe we could sneak out while they're fussing. I could use a spell to fling some gunk to get them fighting among themselves, but it could just make them start searching for us. And Fred looked at Kohri, and Kohri did not appear to be marked by this Hydron. There's got to be some way we can distract them. Make them fight and not see us. Fred pulled out a backpack. I think I've got an idea. He began to rearrange everything in his backpack in order to try and make it fit a kobold. If I have you in here, we could probably throw something at them without being seen. He looked through the crack in the door at the giant. To add on, maybe we could make that big guy over there pissed enough. That's possible. I've been having to use distractions on bigger folk for months. Haven't done it to a giant yet, though. And Fred successfully is able to put Kohri into his backpack, as he's not too overpacked of stuff. He put him inside the backpack as comfortable as possible. Might be a bit cramped in there, but I think he'll be fine. Then, scratching under his chin, let's have a quick look around, then we'll call down the thunder on these people. Fred closed his backpack to make sure Kohri could see out of it. Kohri squirmed a bit in the backpack, but was able to peek his eyes out and claws ready to cast or throw something. Got any gods you want to pray to before this? Well, hopefully the big dragons in the heavens watch out for us. Hopefully Desna's watching for us, too. Elijah, don't leave your grandson hanging. With newly filled hope, Fred stepped out of the stables. Stepping away from the stables, as he does, he heard the dwarves yell, "Open the gates!" A moment later, two enslaved giants began pulling apart the doors of the massive citadel, revealing two very important things. One, Fred and Kohri was able to see that on the other side of the stone walls sat a literal army. They saw stone giants, dwarves, ogres, all dressed in arms and armor. Some standing guard, others repairing siege weapons. Most of them appeared to have the Sahedron somewhere on their armor. The notable exception, again, were all the dwarves. Some of them wore the symbol, but the majority were simply dressed like Esmeralda in plate, with a symbol of a mountain wearing a crown. And the second thing was that walking into the complex, flanked by dwarves riding mammoth, were a pair of large humanoids, though not as large as the stone giants around them. Both of them had blue skin and wore furs. A dwarf, richly decorated, approached the two of them, and the two of them had a conversation that the Kohri was able to translate by speaking Dwarvish. "Ah, the emissaries from the Kodar Mountains. Glad to hear you answered Master Mokmurdian's summons. Tell me, does that mean you've accepted our alliance offer?" "We take orders from no tribe, dwarf, especially one who enslave our kin and depose our chief." "Ah, but she wasn't your chief now, was she? That'd make the difference. But where are my manners? Did you find the alpaca?" "The one you call Devon? Yes, it is right here. That was the tribe you asked for, yes?" "Perfect. Lord Tobias will be pleased at the sacrifice. Please put him in the stables at your leisure. We shall kill it and sacrifice in time. Until then, Mark Monday has prepared quarters for you. Anyone else who came with your delegation. That building over there. Oh, and welcome to Jorgenfist." Watching the giant walked towards the featureless building before turning slightly towards the stables and throwing the alpaca towards them. Devon slammed into the side of the tables and crumpled onto the ground, letting out a weak "Rrrr." Fred, with a look of sadness, helped Devon into the stables and tried to make him more comfortable. He approached the alpaca, who "Rrrr" weakly, and offered no resistance as he carried him into the stables. Fred put him on a pile of hay and looked over the alpaca. He appeared to be quite injured. He rolled a heal check and found out he was at 5 out of 35 hit points. Able to walk, but in critical condition. Still, as long as he didn't do anything strenuous, it looked like the alpaca would make it. Fred held one of the alpaca's hooves. They literally hunted you, didn't they?" He grabbed a potion of cure serious wounds and fed it to him. "Lord Tobias, eh? He fed a potion to Devon. As the liquid worked its magic, Devon's injuries healed part way, and the alpaca stood up on its hooves again. He looked towards Fred and let out another "Meow." Look at you, almost good as new. I'm no healer like Tarek, but I try. Fred pet Devon and thought for a moment and tapped his backpack. Kohri, this changes things. We can't leave Devon here. Then Fred turned to the alpaca. You're coming with us. I'm not going to let you be some kind of cult offering. I know you and me have known each other for that well, but you're still a friend, and a friend doesn't let anyone die alone. But think you can carry us out? Devon let out a happy as Fred pet him, and he definitely seemed to remember Fred. The alpaca was still injured, but was definitely horse-sized. Looking towards the gate, they saw the gate was held up by a silken rope pulley system. Okay, the gate seems to be opened with the rope. It might not be easy to break, but I might be able to shoot it with some acid to get it going. We need to start running soon. The giants over there seem to be, like how my family says, brewing up a bottle of hate. I think we should have a chat with them. They might be able to help us clear some of the dwarves and solve our little gate problem. Fred made sure Kohri was in his backpack and walked over to Devon and hugged him again. You stay put here and now try to relax. We're going to see what we can do. Then the two of them walked over to the featureless building. Given the size of the courtyard, they were able to make it that way without too much trouble, though Fred certainly did feel a few eyes on his back as he moved away from the stable. Nevertheless, they were able to make it over to the featureless building, where the two blue giants walked in without too much issue. Once inside, they saw the interior of the stone building was very dark. There were no windows, and only just one smoke hole far above. The space was dominated by an immense bed, its mattresses heaped high with numerous furs. Inside, they saw hundreds of bear skulls neatly arranged on the large shelves, as well as a golden bear pit, a golden bear pelt, a black bear pelt, and a white bear pelt, all presented with an almost religious significance. The two blue giants were sitting down on the sleeping furs, their packs open, and were currently sharing a meal together. They did not immediately notice him. The one who had talked to the dwarf appeared to be the male one on the left. He appeared a few feet taller to the female giant on his right. Fred coughed a bit to get their attention. The one to the left let out a cough in surprise, before looking over his shoulder and, not seeing anything, looked down before laying his eyes on Fred. Isvig, he called out in Dwarven. I think the dwarves have sent us a chew toy to vent our frustrations on. Well, wait, hold on, I just came for a little chat. You seem to be a little mad over. I heard your little conversation with the dwarf. Kohri watched and translated everything. The giant reached down and picked up Fred in one of its large, calloused hands. You want to talk? It replied. Mormundian kills my ally, enslaves his tribe, and demands my subjugation into his army. How am I supposed to feel, Chew-Toy? Giants do not bend the knee willingly. The giant nearly threw Fred against the wall in anger, but his companion held his hand back. Yeah, I'm on the same boat as you. They enslaved my ass here too, and my friends. You think I'm calm? No. I'm standing in a flood of hate. So I thought we could have a little chat with each other. You're not from the dwarves? The female giant next to him responded. It is a slave. It risks its life coming to speak with us. The least that we can do is hear it out. You are too trusting, Isvig. But it's not like we have anything better to do. He set Fred down. My name is Fred Ethan Winters, and this is my friend Kohri. Why would you think I'm a part of this place? I'm better than shoveling horse crap. I used to travel. Kohri gave a sheepish wave from the inside the bag. What about you two? You seem more capable than their branded asses. My name is Jansik, of the Kodahar Mountains near the human city you call Isrand. In my younger years, I made a pact with the chiefess of these stone giants. Neither of our people were warlike, and I thought nothing of it. By the time we learned of the dwarven attack, it was too late. Her tribe had been broken, enslaved, and bound up by these 5 king dwarves under Momerdian. We fought them, and we lost too many men, and now he demands our subjugation. Or he will take our subjugation in death. Ah! I have no desire to attack human settlements in the name of some Lamashtu. The giant gestures to the bearskins and skulls in the building around them. This is what her tribe worshipped before McMurdian. Animals and nature, not violence and death. But our Chilifan has forced us to accept this alliance. Dishonor before death. I'm guessing Chilifan is your boss, eh? Spoke Fred. How many giants are enslaved here, anyway? I do not know how many of her tribe survived. Perhaps a few dozen still live? 100 at most? McMurdian boasts outside he has an army of over 1,000. I do not know if that was a boast or not. I could not count them all. 1,000 giants? Damn, I can't even imagine that many. Neither can I. But I see troops, supplies, and arms flowing into Jorgenfist from as far away as the Hook Mountains. McMurdian has a far larger expedition than simply subjugating our Arnie's tribe. He intends to conquer Varsnia. You want your people out of here, I assume. I have no quarrel with humans. Neither did Arnie. But a giant does not go back on his word. If Arnie's tribe calls for aid in a time of war, Chilifan is honor bound to accept, as are most of the tribes here in the mountains. No offense, but it doesn't sound like it was the tribes wanting aid for a war. It just sounds like someone who was using them. If they want aid, it would be to go free, now wouldn't it? Sounds McMurdian is hogging all of what he says. It is more complicated than that, human. It's difficult to explain giant culture in this language. Suffice to say, if Arnie's tribe called for aid, we aid. I would not expect a human to understand our honor. If only Arnie were still here. She could stop this. She could unseat McMurdian simply by walking down into the library he sequenters himself in and declaring herself chieftain again. I'm guessing the dwarves killed her? Isvig placed a hand on Jarvik's shoulder and turned to you. As did all the stone giants who opposed the dwarves. Jarzik simply places too much faith in old rumors and old legends. Hey, rumors and legends have some truth to them. It's what makes this world. Shortly after the dwarves arrived, McMurdian transformed. The mind of a dwarf, but he turned into the body of a stone giant. A body that looked a lot like a male version of Arnie. Brother, I am no mage, but there is no magic I've ever heard that can move minds and bodies around. Transform? Yes, but not transfer. The dwarf did not steal her body. She is dead. We need to move on. That means finding solutions like the human is suggesting, not dwelling on fantasies. I'm not sure about swapping them, but what if there was a way to help unseat this guy? Kobolds are communal, and you giants sound like that, coming to help other tribes. If one part is in danger, then we help the others. Mermurdian sounds like a big dick anyway. Type I'm used to, they're much bigger. What do you propose? Well, if you could, we might be able to make a rebellion. Some of the dwarves might be unhappy, and this sounds like nasty magic. But they usually have a disposition against weird mages. Kohri's right. Rebellion might stir up enough trouble. Plus, if the guy's a dick, and you guys think he's a dick, then maybe there's more people who think like that. Exactly. Perhaps a rebellion might succeed. Not among dwarf, but perhaps among giant. I'm not the only one grumbling under his rule. I have a few giants in mind that I might even support the idea, in fact. Well, it's better than just a couple. All the hands available to help. You're serious, human. I could start spreading the word. It would take time, however. And we need weapons. Lots of weapons. That's true. We can't exactly do it bare clawed. So weapons would be a good idea. If you two can find me enough axes, swords, and spears for half an army, well, I'll try to find half an army enough to grab them. Deal? There has to be something. We can definitely try. Do you have any ideas? What about siege weapons? Siege weapons on the castle walls, that could help. Do you know any place we could find any sort of weapons? There are catapults outside, however. It's part of the conquering armor. As to where to find weapons, well, that's the thing. From what I can see, the reason the army has not yet marched for war is that we're still waiting for those armors and weapons to be delivered. Giants do not normally mobilize in this large of numbers, and so forging enough swords and breastplates for everyone takes time. We could try to steal the weapons from those who have already received them, though that sounds like a losing fight. Alternatively, you are small, and I am not. You could intercept some of the ogre caravans carrying the weapons here. Or, better yet, take over protection entirely. Well, that means we get the weapons, and Morkmordian's army would get none. Where are these ogres? Me and my friends could talk with them. There's a few ogre clans that are forging Jorgenfist weapons. The largest, I believe, is the Krieg clan, down south in the shadows of Hook Mountain. Morkmordian sent one of his kin down there to lead the operation, along with a Larmia named Lucia. Lucretia. Fred sighed. Lucretia really does have her hands everywhere. The Krieg clan I've met and I've seen them. They're probably a bit spooked up. You know the Krieg? Then perhaps our task just got a little bit easier. Do you know where the Krieg are based? Kinda. I know the general area. And then we had a bit of a conversation about him forgetting he had a map of the area. So we have a deal then. I'll talk to some of the giants. In return, you bring us weapons from Hook Mountain to oppose Morkmordian, yeah? You have my word. But, how do we get out of the fort? I don't know anything about this, but sure. Let's try. Janos reached into the furs by his bedside, and at that comment, pulled out to what to him must have been a small twig. I can help you with this. He held out the small wooden object and handed it to Fred, a twig that was about as big as Fred as he was tall. Hold this and say the human word for dragon. And the party goes and grabs Devon, and Fred says dragon. The stick suddenly grew straw bristles, and the broom began to hover by his side. Without words, both of them instantly knew exactly what this was. This should get you out of Jorgenfist, as long as you move fast. I thought that would do something a lot scarier. This looks fun. Little kobold, too paranoid for your own good. That's how I'm still alive. Well, this is a first. Fred made sure Devon was on tight and Kohri was in his backpack. All good. How far are we going, by the way? Hook Mountain's very far south of here. It's far south of the Iron Peaks. It's quite the trip. I wish you all good luck. Well, this is interesting. Just don't drop us, please. I can't fly yet. I think I'm ready. Devon, you ready? All right. Fred thought and mimicked riding a horse. Hi-ho, silver away! At Fred's command, the broom took off, flying out of the door of the nondescript building and rising high, flying 100 feet up and out the top of the fortress in a matter of seconds. Almost immediately, Fred heard shouting in both Dwarven and Giant, as the defenders of the fortress easily spotted their daring escape. However, as they flew higher, it became harder and harder to hit Fred, both from the giants who threw rocks at him and dwarves firing crossbows. Still, as the dwarves readied their siege engines, Fred decided best not to stick around, and began his long journey of flying south.